I got a brown. Took her down a little brook, bigger brook. Also, I can tell the story with the video. How about that? Look at that.
That's great. I'm done. I'm gonna go fucking pack my shell.
God dang. Well, that is one pretty fish, man.
Goddamn sexy.
Try to get some. Lordy. All right, guys.
$30.
One day.
Same tree.
Same tree.
Oh my God, I'm so
Woo!
Holy shit! Get a shot of these.
2 farms this year. Number 1 is done.
Did you say bye, Kevin?
I did. I already did. Bye, Kevin.
Bye, Kevin.
Bye, Kevin. Bye, Kevin.
Smoked it, buddy. Look at that. You destroyed it.
Joey takes
The shop is closing up.
Make sure he takes all his right antlers.
I am hosting today because Caleb is working, and we are here to talk about Trout Camp. I'm here with all the children.
Decent.
And we're here to talk about our annual Pennsylvania trout fishing trip. We're going to kind of start off by talking about what we do, where we go.
Not where we
We're gonna
Not exactly where we go,
yeah,
but
hold up.
if anybody watches our videos, they kind of can tell exactly where we go. But it's basically it's mountain streams, mountain rivers, but it's for stock trout in Pennsylvania in the spring. And if Dylan and Luke want to talk a little bit about the strategies that we do
As far as fishing?
As far as fishing.
Starting fishing?
We're going to start with the fishing, then we'll start talking about what the trip's actually about.
No, when I was younger, it was pretty much whatever. Waxworms, worms was like the main thing we used, and then as you got older, learned a couple new tricks and stuff, so I use a minnow harness now, and it seems to do really well. Luke tries all kinds of different stuff. I don't like changing.
Yeah, I do like
Luke changes
the
it.
whatever's in like the trending thing at the time. I'll try. I always do like spinners. I do some jigs on floats. I do the waxworms and the night crawlers, just like on split shots. And I just do.
It does depend on what style you're fishing too. Like when I'm in the rapids, I love throwing a minnow. They, for some reason, the fast moving water, they always hit it. And the way you design or you make the minnow rig, I know you can buy them, but they have basically a trailer of a treble hook on the end of it, so you don't miss a lot of fish. When I'm in a slower portion of the river, like deep holes or something, I'm usually trying to wax worm, or I know Luke likes to throw rooster tails or something, because it's getting, with a minnow, it's hard to reel like that and pull through those spots without them maybe coming off or something.
It also depends on the like the creeks we fish. Like in Pennsylvania, they'll have a creek, and there's all these creeks. I mean, every creek they have in the state is stocked. So there's a list of like what species is in the creek, and it depends on what you're fishing for. Like fishing for brown trout, we'll throw more aggressive, like rooster tails and fox. What are those called? The fox spinners. I don't know the exact brand name, but anything spinner, anything fast, we'll go for brown trout. And when you're fishing for rainbows, you can fish like jig heads. You can fish just the waxworms. The minnows work for rainbows and
brookies.
Yeah, but most of them are brookies. So like fishing for brookies is pretty common, especially in the bigger creeks. We'll just use like waxworms with split shots, kind of bounce them off the bottom. Sometimes you can get away with using trout floats.
Gotta have a swivel.
You gotta have a swivel. A swivel is the most important thing.
Gonna spin.
Yeah, so everybody knows we're using spinning reels for most of this.
Yeah.
We do a little bit of fly fishing, but not much.
When I do fly fishing there, it's usually around Memorial weekend. Just that's when the mayflies are hatching, and you actually do pretty good depending on the weather if it's warm, and you can have a lot of fun doing it.
But when we go there opening weekend or the second week, we see a lot of people fly fishing, and we see them not catching any fish.
Yeah, and they fish for 'em more like steelhead with floats, and they're not doing topwater as much.
So they're not even really fly
The
fishing.
general person thinks of a fly fish, and you're thinking topwater all the time. A lot of people mistaken that for sometimes you can do fly rods with floats or the center pins that look like fly rods. People do that
But
too.
they're basically just drifting with them. They're not actually fly fishing.
Yes.
So I
us common folk.
hate waxworms because I seem to not have the ability to keep them on a hook or more than one cast.
They do fall apart.
Yeah, so a lot of the fishing we're doing, we're bouncing split shots with about 6-9 inches of a lead. So we're bouncing slip shots off the ground, like in the rocks, and getting snagged a lot.
Constantly.
A lot.
And that's what drives me crazy.
But that's when you got to find that that perfect happy medium, because it takes sometimes you find it right the first time, and if depending on the water level, if it's the speed and the flow, it's could be a couple small ones. It could be and it's fast. You want more weight to get down quicker, and
if
just
you
all
have too
depends.
much weight, you're immediately getting snagged.
Yeah.
Breaking off, and then you're trying to retie.
It's so hard to explain all this. Like, if you don't fish, you guys have no idea what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Like, even fishermen, like, you got to trout fish, and you got to be a creek fisherman or river fisherman to understand exactly what we're talking about. Like, the main thing what we do is you're standing in a creek or a river or whatever you want to call it. It can be 5 foot wide to 100 foot wide or whatever. And you're casting upstream with a hook and split shots 6 to 9 to 18 inches from the hook. And the idea is to bounce the split shots barely off the bottom, and then your bait will float right where the trout are holding. And you just kind of bounce it like you just hold your rod and watch your line just go in front of you and bounce off the ground or off where the rocks are. And that's how you catch the fish, and you'll feel them bite and then you reel them in. That's the basics of it. But like most of these people listening probably have no...
Yeah, because a lot of people will turn their nose up too, because the Western fishermen that fly fish for the native species, we just don't have that opportunity.
I did when I went to Montana this year.
You catch anything?
No, missed about 6 of them.
But
I did learn that they do not hit hard.
We also catch some natives from time to time.
We do catch some natives from time to time.
caught...
Which is cool.
We've gone to some super, super small creeks before that are about as wide as this table and caught little
In there, you have
5-inch
to
natives.
use like barbless hooks and stuff, don't you?
So in Pennsylvania, it depends. Like,
Depends what
there's Class A
unit
streams and there's special regulation streams. But last 2 summers ago, when we went on our tubing trip, our smallie fishing trip, for me, it was a smallie fishing trip, but the rest of you guys tubed. I hiked like 2 miles into this remote creek that's public land access, and I did catch like a 4-inch rainbow trout with my fly rod. And it was a wild trout. It's not a native because it's not native to here.
It was about this big.
It was about as big as that pen.
They are the coolest little things.
And it was beautiful. It was a pretty little fish. And I caught him on a fly rod on a dry fly. And it was awesome. But they're just wild because it was born in the creeks.
Yeah, the ones that
Like,
you go to in the mountains like that, they do, the water stays cold enough for them in the shade, and they are able to find holes to live. The ones in the big river, when it gets super low and has a lot of sunshine, gets too hot, a lot of those stock fish die off. There are some that live, but not as much. Smallmouth and stuff like that can live in there all the time because they find those deep holes that stay out of the heat when it gets that hot.
I wish I could have been a fly in a tree watching Luke do this. He walks 2 miles in, bunch of gear, video camera, catches the fish, and it's the size of this pen.
And it was like,
Sitting
it
there
was
like
the worst
this.
thing because it was like the first 2 holes that I fished, I caught one.
And he
then
puts
I
it back.
fished
Then
for
you
like-
didn't catch another one?
I fished for like 6 more hours and didn't even see
So
anything else.
was that the style of fishing where you cast and let it drift, or you literally just...
Well, you're such a
I
small
was
stream, you can
using
set
a
it,
2-weight
them.
fly rod with
which is for
2-weight
like
line.
bluegill.
So it was like the rod's only 6 foot long, and it's like the tippet is like 0.5 pounds of breaking tension, and I was just dipping it in the water and watching it like go from the front to the back, and it was like
Fishing for
5 foot
minnows.
hole. Yeah, it's like creek chub fishing.
So
and
you
then-
know where Paul and Anthony and them stay? Like, do you know actually where, like, how to get there? Like, take that bottom right and you kind of go
Yeah,
down.
I've been to the cabin. Yeah.
So
oh, yeah.
when I stayed there with them 2 years ago,
I fished that creek that guy was talking about.
did you
Yeah.
go with Nathan?
No, so Nathan went during Trout Camp. Like, And I went like 2 months later when we went.
Because I was told that there's like a small creek right down there with a ton of native.
Yeah, there is.
Like in it. And I don't remember if Nathan did any good or how many.
I think
of
he
those
caught
were
some. But I went like 2 months later in June and caught one because it was so hot and the water was so low. But yeah, there's fish there. I mean, all throughout Pennsylvania. That's not even like a. It's not like you can't find that stream on like online. Like in Pennsylvania, there's so many streams that have all these wild and native fish that like.
And you wouldn't even know because it's literally just like a little creek.
It's just a little creek that runs out of the mountains straight into the Allegheny. Like you wouldn't have any idea.
So that is the fishing part of it. But the real reason why we go to Trout Camp, and I'll have Dylan start. Well, we started going with Dylan. Give a little history of your family in the area because you guys owned a cabin. A camper.
Piece of land.
So they owned, the Horners owned a piece of land, and your grandpa bought that, or did your dad buy that?
My grandpa bought it, if I'm not mistaken, in the 60s or 60s or 70s. They started going up there. That was like their summer place. They'd go up there camping in the summer. They'd go fishing and stuff, and then it started becoming probably in the 80s, I would assume, when my dad was up there a lot. My grandpa passed away in 93. But they were doing trout camp up there for as long as I can remember. And they had all my uncles and cousins. It was a guy's trip too. The women can come in the summer and when they went camping and stuff, but during trout fishing you went there to fish and drink. So it was started a long time ago, and we probably haven't stayed at the trailer in...
Well, they did during COVID, remember?
Well, we do camp there every now and then, but we'll do tents and stuff. Like when we go turkey hunting, we might set up camp there, and it's just in a tent. You can't stay in the trailer. There's a different ecosystem growing inside of there.
It's basically an old double wide, probably from the 60s.
Mm-hmm.
Probably like 2014 is the last time we stayed there.
Yeah, it might
I think
have been when
like
I was
us
in high
three,
school
Kyle,
or
and
something.
Nathan.
Yeah.
Stayed inside of it because we go up there often and stay sometimes turkey hunt and stuff like that. But it was a lot of fun. We had, when I was younger, I mean, I've been going there since, my mom used to take me and dad, my brother, and I was a baby when I used to go.
And in the heyday of that trout camp, I think it was probably one of the last years we stayed there. We probably had 40 people at that little property, which is what, half an acre, quarter acre?
Yeah. It's just a little corner lot, and we had, I think it was when I started inviting my friends up there when I started getting like middle school, high school, and Luke, Nathan, Kyle, Jace, and Ethan. I don't know if you came up there with us or not.
Yeah.
I don't remember. Well, I didn't know if you went with your dad and them because, long story short, Caleb started coming with Matt, and that's kind of what started getting you guys to come. Mm-hmm. But this was years and years ago. So
yeah, I think the first year I went, I was 14 years old because that's when the incident happened.
Yeah, it was a good one.
We'll talk about that in a little bit.
Yeah.
So it kind of morphed from staying at the Horner camp, and
they hunted up there too.
Yeah,
Dad has a couple bucks from there. They used to hunt. And then I remember the one year they had a really, really bad tornado come through there and almost destroyed everything. And it was weird because it was when my grandpa was still alive, and they were all staying up there. And every tree, they woke up, went outside, and every single tree that was on that lot, besides a couple of them, fell down, and they were all around the camper. Not one limb, not one tree fell on that camper.
They just all fell right
all
around.
The other campers were destroyed, lifted up on their side. It was a bad tornado. It was probably the worst one that went through there. But it never got destroyed. I remember going up there in the summers to patch the roof every year. We tarred it. We took care of it, and then we got older and, stopped going there every summer with sports and everything. So no one used it, and what happens when you don't use something? It just goes to shit.
Yeah, so then we kept the tradition alive of going to trout camp, but we kind of morphed it. We moved the camp to the campground that's right by where we fish. So we started taking campers, setting up tents, big groups of us. In the past, we probably had 20, 30 people camping. And we pretty much just go there to hang out, party, do a little bit of fishing. There's a local watering hole right by the campground, so we spend a lot of time there. And none of this is secret, but we don't want to burn spots if we don't have to. But if you watch our videos, you can kind of tell exactly where it is.
Trout Camp is kind of like a whirlpool.
Yeah.
Like, it's something that's easy. There's no limitation. So more and more people kept coming, and like, if you're on the edge of that whirlpool, you just got sucked in. I mean, the amount of people that have gone over the years or still go,
because it's almost
grew
like
quite a bit.
It's almost like an open invite for all of our friends. So
I don't think I've missed a year since I was 3 years old.
Like Paul and Anthony and Alex and all of them, like they used to go to West Virginia, and then they figured out, why don't we just go to Pennsylvania? So now we just got the whole Hoot and Holler community.
Yeah,
essentially.
So they set up a separate camp from us. So we have 2-3 separate camps in the same area during the same time.
Yeah. Well, they're older, so they like the cabin and
they have a
running
shower,
water
stuff like
and
that. Yeah.
showers.
Because the place is paradise.
Yeah.
That's all there is to it. So we go there. We do spend a lot of time in that watering hole. We've had some pretty good stories for the shuffleboard table. So what would you guys say is the biggest bet on the shuffleboard game we've ever had?
Probably $200-$300 a guy.
Yeah.
I'd say about $800.
So
total on the table.
$200.
I walked out of there the one night. I think I only had like $200, and I think I walked out with like $1,200.
Hoarder luck.
Yeah, it's always the hoarder luck.
Yeah.
It probably came all out of my pocket.
It was a year. I don't know who was my partner.
And we don't. I think it was Nick.
Yes.
And we don't play shuffleboard the right way, but we have more fun playing it our way.
Yeah, we play our way. We
play it like cornhole.
Almost.
You'll have professionals in there be like, "Oh no!" I'm like, "Dude,
the way you play shuffleboard, you're supposed to score the farthest pucks beyond the closest puck of the opponent.
Yeah.
So if you only have one puck beyond there, then you only score that. But we just do a cancellation on the board, like
so
cornhole.
We're too drunk for that.
Yeah.
It's easier to count when we're present."
And we've gotten to the point where we actually know the owner, and she orders us extra Busch Light for the weekend we're going. Caleb will text her and say, "Hey, get some extra Busch Light," and then they sell them to us. I think for $1. It used to be 50 cents.
Well, they give us those coins that are like free beers.
I can
too.
tell you that
There's a couple inside.
I remember nights I probably got 40 beers and food and appetizers and all this stuff. It's like $61. I'm like, holy shit.
In the past few years, I think Nick might have covered it last year. One person just covers the entire tab for the entire group for the whole night, and it's like $300.
Yeah.
If you did that at a bar,
that's like 20 people.
And that's when there's 20 people there.
If you did it at a bar up here, it'd be like 10 grand.
Yeah.
They're also cooking like food from Aldi's on
a
residential oven.
But it's good food. It's good
It
food.
is good food.
The broccoli cheddar bites.
Yeah.
There's something
Best
to
thing
die
ever.
for. But all right, well, Isaac, I'd say, why don't you talk about your first experience at Trout Camp?
Now we're going to start talking about the issues, problems, stories, interesting things that have happened over
Grizzly
the
bear
years.
fight.
The grizzly bear fight that will come up. We won't mention too many names, but we'll talk about it.
First names.
Yeah, sure. Why not? I don't care. So the first year that I went, I want to say it was probably early 2000, maybe
So
like
you're
2007,
14. I would have been 11 or 12.
So probably like 2007, 2008.
Yeah.
First year I went. First time ever going by myself. Matt at the time, he was married to my cousin, so he was a relative. He took me. I knew Dylan and Donnie from school, but he took me fishing, and we had a heck of a year. I just remember the fishing was off the charts.
That was awesome.
And we ran into some issues with some locals, mostly because of the people we were with, Justin and Matt. Justin was getting a little mouthy with a local, and I'm just, poor 14-year-old kid fishing on the bank. Justin starts yelling at this local. We start, bickering back and forth.
I think it's because you were catching too many fish.
Yeah, we were catching a lot of fish. We were throwing them back.
And this guy's sitting here trying to make a living off these fish.
I don't know what he was getting pissed that we were catching all his fish, throwing them back. Maybe we were in his hole, whatever. All of a sudden, I'm fishing there, and I'm not waiting because I'm fishing next to this giant hole, and I'm about, 5 or 6 feet above the river.
It's like a bank.
Yeah, just standing on the riverbank, and all of a sudden, I just get bull rushed and plowed into the river. So 14-year-old kid go flying head over heels into the river over my head. I'm trying to swim. And this local got so pissed off at us that he started making a beeline for Justin, and I happened to be in the way. So he pushed me in the river. As I'm trying to get out of the river, this dude's fighting Justin. He ends up punching Justin right in the eye.
Your dad's in a sling.
No, hold on. Wait for that
so,
story.
there's more to this story.
Yeah. I have partial to this if you go on to So where are you going with this?
So they tussle. Justin gets his eye knocked out because this dude's like, I don't know, 6'5".
He's a big boy.
Justin's a big dude, but he's real short. Justin ends up like bull rushing him and pushing him away, and he starts running. So we're like chasing this dude. And
well,
Tim and
I remember Matt and we were fishing on the backside of the island, and they came running over, and Justin has this log in his hand. He's like, "We're gonna go beat some ass." And
yeah, so after this happened, Justin yanks a log off a tree, big rotten log. He's like, "I'm gonna go kick this guy's ass." And then your dad and Tim show up.
Yeah,
and they're
they're across the river or something.
Yeah,
and
so I figured, just being a little naive kid, I figured like, oh, let's calm down, let him go. Oh no, your dad and Tim show up. They're like, let's go beat these fuckers.
So my dad had a rotator cuff surgery. Remind you, his arm's in a sling, and he's like this, or his left arm or something. And
if anybody knows Dylan's dad, he's a little guy.
He's a little guy,
yeah,
just like me,
guy.
just little, nothing fancy about him.
He's a little guy.
And so this other big dude had his buddy there with him. But you guys started. I wasn't there for that part, but I know you guys went. Were you with him?
Yeah. So we ended up chasing these dudes down to have a word with them. And your dad ends up
catching up to his buddy.
Catching up to this guy's buddy.
Yeah.
And this dude's buddy, skinny dude, but he's real tall. Donnie's looking up at him. And I remember, I swear to God, 14-year-old kid, I just remember seeing Donnie swing at this tall ass dude. And he hits this dude in the chin about 2 feet above his head. Dude falls over and runs off. And then the cops show up. And to this day, I think it is an open case because Justin wanted to file charges against this dude for punching him in the eye.
Yeah, they never.
He assaulted two of you.
Yeah.
So we went
assault on a minor.
Yeah, that was. So we all made it back. I remember to the trucks. This was before we stayed at the campground because this guy went. There was no cars there. There's people there. He just kind of disappeared. The only thing that made sense there was a campground across the street, or there was houses.
It was like a holler, like in West Virginia, like a bunch of houses in a valley.
So we're standing there at the truck. The cops come, and all this stuff happens, and then the cops are checking every vehicle that comes out of this place, and then all of a sudden this dude starts shooting like a fully automatic weapon back there, just popping rounds off for practicing. But we think it was that guy that was back there shooting
to intimidate us a little bit.
But nothing ever came about that. No one ever found him. No one ever talked to him. I don't think we've ever seen him because we would recognize a dude like that.
And this was years ago when there was no phone service anywhere down there. We had to drive. I think we had to drive all the way to
Wig Hill.
Yeah.
Yeah. You guys had to drive up. That was back when the store was there. We had to drive up to town.
For a long time.
Yeah.
So what happened after that? Was that like the first day? Did you stay and keep fishing, or did you guys go home the next day?
No, we fished.
Yeah, we still fished. I had to go back to camp and dry all my shit out. I think it was probably like
that's when you guys were sleeping in
the
trailer.
Yeah.
Yeah, the big box trailer.
No, I think that was the camp. We had the Golden Nugget there.
Oh.
So the Golden Nugget is the camper.
But that was Tim's at that time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That thing's made its rounds. Apparently now it's a flatbed trailer somewhere. Still being used. Same axles and everything.
It's incredible.
That was back when America was America. And they built shit.
Campers were built good back then.
I know. That's why mine still lasts.
Yeah.
So that's my story from Trout Camp.
Well, Trout Camp this year is just going to be us.
Yeah,
5.
So unfortunately, Trout Camp's
one other
be
person.
Small this year because everybody's having babies. Freeman got his out of the way early though, so he's coming with us. Because initially you weren't gonna come, I don't think.
I was always gonna come.
When is your
people were just speculating?
When is your actual due date? It's like right
the 23rd, this Saturday.
Oh, it's not till this Saturday.
Yeah, she was what 2 weeks ago?
3 weeks.
3.
Well, it was 3 weeks early. We had to induce, so. But
you were coming anyway.
I was coming anyway. How long I was coming?
Yeah, and Caleb
may have been elongated now that I have some more time in between.
Caleb hasn't missed in 10, 15 years, and he said he's not coming.
The only one we missed was the COVID year.
Yeah, I don't count that. But everybody missed everything during COVID. All right, Luke, let's go to your story.
All right, my story is like purely fishing fun story. Like,
okay.
There's no one's going to jail.
Boring as hell.
One, yeah. So you guys, anyone that listens to this podcast knows Nick. Like everyone knows Nick. He's an asshole, and he's just always making fun of people and being a dick. So this was Nick's first year going down. And there's like a creek right behind camp, and it's like the first evening we're there. And like we all decide to go fishing. So we go fishing in this little tiny creek behind camp. And Nick is just like, he's learning the basics. And he's like, this is fun, And he's like standing in this hole for hours. He's caught 2 little tiny trout, whatever. And like, he walks off.
Yeah, having a blast.
And I'm like, fuck it. I'm just gonna go stand where he was standing and just fish where he was fishing. And I caught like a 4-pound, 22-inch brook trout, and it was the biggest fish I've ever caught there. And like second cast.
Is that the football one?
That was the football one. Yeah, there's on video somewhere. It's on one of the episodes.
One of the years. All right, Trash. What do you got?
So mine's a trout fishing story, but it's not from Trout Camp.
It's from Pennsylvania, though.
No, it's from Japan.
You can't. We're talking about PA.
Let's hear your Japan trout fishing story because it is fun.
Oh, I heard.
So I had the blues. Everyone was trout fishing. I was not. I was in
Was this
Japan.
the same weekend that we were trout fishing?
No, it was a couple weekends after, I think.
Right after.
It was
right
during
around
COVID.
Right around that
He has
same time period.
FOMO real bad
Yeah.
when he misses out on stuff.
So you're stuck in Japan
Yep, I'm on leave for the week in Japan.
during
I'm
COVID.
I'm Googling trout fishing. I'm like, how am I going to trout fish? I want to go trout fishing. I want to go. There's mountains in Japan, obviously. I want to go trout fishing.
There's got to be trout there. There's got to be a lot of natives.
Yeah, a lot of natives, but just hard to get into because of the
Well, I
language
wonder if
barrier
there's actually.
and everything.
No,
Public
go ahead.
transportation. So I take a 2-hour bus ride, hop on a train, hop on another bus, find this spot, trout fishing spot on Google, make a reservation online, and I show up, and it's like a fucking outhouse. It's like a bamboo building in the middle of the mountains. And I'm like, what the fuck? So I'm like, walk up to this dude. I'm like, trout fishing? He's like, oh, no. I'm like, no, I made a reservation online. He's like, oh, okay, yeah. 7 trout. I'm like, cool, I can catch 7 trout. He hands me this cane pole of bamboo.
We got like worm and a hook.
I'm like, all right. He hands me some salmon eggs. I'm like, I guess I can do this. I mean, just trout in the stream probably. And I walk over to this hole. Nice, beautiful little creek. And this dude takes 7 trout out of a bucket. Dumps them right in front of me. I'm like, God damn it.
So you had to fish for them.
Yeah, I catch my 7 trout and I take them up to him. He's like, you want to eat them? I'm like, no.
Yeah, those trout haven't eaten in 10 days.
4-hour train ride back to fucking base.
Because you cane pole fish for 7 trout that he laid right in front of you.
Yep.
Oh my
Did you eat them when you took them home?
I was pissed.
So be thankful for conservation when
Yeah.
you're buying your fishing
Yeah, for
license.
the Pennsylvania Game Commission trout or stocking all these trout creeks.
That goes for anything.
Yeah.
But that's my story.
So we got through the stories. What about the biggest fish? Because I know Dylan has some stories about fish your dad caught years ago.
Yeah,
It was
he
almost
has
a state record. Or
Yeah,
was
it was
a
like
state
number
record?
2, I think, and I think it might still hold today. I don't know. It was a giant brown trout, and I can't remember.
Like 9 pounds or something crazy.
Yeah, it was like 9 pounds and 26 inches or something, which is, if anyone's familiar with trout or steelhead, it was like a steelhead.
It's like the size of a salmon.
Yeah, it was big. He caught a giant rainbow, a giant palomino, brook trout. He has all 4 species, let's call them, mounted, that were all over 22 inches, I think, 23, somewhere in there.
So let's talk about these trout for a second. The Pennsylvania Game Commission stocks all these trout. So the trout that we're catching that are like the 8 to 12 inch, are those all yearlings? Are they all 2 years old, or how's that work?
I don't know, because they all come from the hatchery. I don't know, Luke, do you have any idea how long it takes to grow a trout?
12-inch trout are like a year old.
Like the
Yeah,
first year.
I would imagine.
So they hatch them, they grow them for a year, then they release them.
Yeah.
And then the big ones you catch are
We call the big ones the breeders.
breeders.
Right.
And
We call
some
them
of them
breeders.
do.
the technical term for them that the state calls them is brooder trout.
Brooder, but we always call them
We
breeders.
call them breeders.
Yeah.
So these are the bigger trout that they release. So even if you did catch a quote-unquote world record trout from one of those streams, they already know it's in there. Like, they've
Yeah.
released it. And are these trout 2, 3, 6? How old do you think they
Well,
are?
some of the ones in the bigger river, those trout, they get released in there,
And
but
grow,
they live
survive.
because it's so deep, and they have that is a possibility
That
when
they
they
come
get
upstream?
so big, like they only put a palomino I caught.
Yeah.
I mean, that was like a 19-inch, maybe 4-pounder
I would say 4 or
somewhere in
5
there.
pound.
I mean, it was nice. It was a fat little guy, and
But we've seen ones that are way bigger.
Oh,
we
yeah.
just can't get them to bite.
yeah, but they have, those are like stocked ones, but the ones that break records are the ones that live.
They survive.
I would think they would. I can't imagine them just stocking like, oh, we got this trout that's 18,
here's the
18
world
pounds.
record.
There's
We're gonna
also
toss
like
it in.
There's a weird thing that the Pennsylvania has, like there's line records. So like, oh, it's the biggest fish caught
with
with 8 pounds,
4
6
pound
pound
line,
yeah.
and like there's like state records. There's like 20 of them. There's a bunch of
They
them.
also do a lot of like children fishing derbies. Like
Yeah.
they'll release 100 of these breeders, these big trout, into a little tiny stream or a pond,
Yeah.
and have the kids come out and catch them all.
Yeah.
So they'll catch like 5 breeders and 5
So,
casts
yeah.
and be like,
We got a funny story about that. I kind of didn't think about that, but I definitely should
highly
have changed.
illegal, right?
Well,
We didn't know.
Ignorant.
it wasn't
You just didn't
illegal.
know.
No,
didn't
we
catch
just.
anything.
This is we were
So-
younger. This was, I don't know,
I mean, this was
6 years ago.
This
we
was
done it
quite
twice,
a while
I
ago,
think.
but we were like graduated high school.
Yeah,
so.
we were definitely able to figure it out.
Oh yeah, we definitely should
Because
have done
we were
research and like,
driving around, we were looking for spots to fish, and people that weren't driving, we were back there drinking, hanging out, having a good time. And we found this stream. We're like, oh yeah, fuck yeah, let's fish this. We're like, sweet.
It
Park the
turns
truck.
out not all the streams are
No.
completely accessible.
No. So we found the one stream, and I remember exactly what stream it was. And we get out, we're like, fuck, man, this looks awesome. We're getting our shit on, get all our gear on. There's like no one around. We're like, how is no one in here? And there's like nice holes. We're
Giant
sitting
fish
in there,
everywhere.
giant. We see palominos. We're like walking upstream. We're there for probably 20 minutes.
I don't
know.
think any of us fished except Ethan.
I wasn't there.
No, you were there.
No, I fished.
You
We
were
all
definitely there.
fished. Or maybe we were walking to try and find a spot.
We only had one person fish before we figured it out.
Yeah. Well, it said youth only. We
You
found a si-
finally ran
There's a
into
huge
a
sign
Found
of
a
the
sign.
tree, like where we parked by, and we're like reading the sign. And we're like, oh, youth only.
Yeah.
And there's like, but in some cases it's hard to tell. Like there's all sorts of streams that
There
Yeah,
it
and
is, because the signs are spread out pretty far, and
is
if
it
you
only
don't
youth
know,
only for a mile? Because they can't make the
some
whole
of it is.
stream,
So, like
stuff
some of,
that.
I know the one that we were on was like 500 yards to the mouth of the big river, and
and they
that's
stock
where they
giant fish
stocked
in
it
there.
all. Yeah.
They stuck a bunch of huge fish in there.
And it is bizarre for an outsider to think of this as we're all catching these stock trout, but this is the way Pennsylvania survives.
Yeah,
And-
this
Yeah.
is
and
their
the amount
moneymaker.
of the amount of money that people like us, like the tourism, brings to the area when it comes to trout
Firefly Festival brings a lot.
fishing, it keeps it alive. They can
Yeah.
pay for this stocking year after year after year.
Especially
Basically,
in Pennsylvania,
Trout
like-
Camp now is a time you go there, and I'm somewhat serious about fishing, not as much as I used to be, but I do like to wake up early and go fish and hit the river, and then once I catch my fish, if I catch my limit for the day, I either keep them, throw them back, whatever. I'm like, it's time to drink. Go back.
It
Go
turns
out in the
into
afternoon,
a
evening.
bachelor party. After
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, it's
And
a vacation.
It's a lot.
We enjoy ourselves.
Minus any women for hundreds of miles.
One of my favorite stories actually was last year. Freeman, we all got drunk on like Thursday night, and it's like 5:45 and the sun's rising. Oh, I gotta be the first one on the river. So I go down the river, and Freeman like 15 minutes later comes stumbling down there. He's like, "God damn it!" He got up, Snapchat his wife. He's like, "I'm the first one on the river." He comes down there, and I'm standing there like this.
Very hungover. Well, I had a pretty funny story about that, because that same day we had a lot of fun fishing. It was 90 fucking degrees. We went golfing
God, I
on a
hope it's
pretty
like
badass.
Yeah, I forgot we
right.
went
It's a
golfing.
pretty badass golf course.
That
I mean, we've never had
We're
weather
gonna
like
do that again. If we can't go.
Yeah. It's time
Well,
to-
like we said, it was 95 degrees. We were golfing. We were sweating.
Ryan, you
And we get
no
back.
shower.
We get back to the truck from the golf course, and we're driving to the liquor store / beer store. And Dylan reaches in his back seat and turns Freeman's heat seat around.
And I am complaining. I'm like, my ass is on fire. And they are laughing so hard. And I don't know why it's so funny.
we were golfing, and it was the hottest you could ever.
It was
be.
hot.
It was
It was-
95 degrees, pure
was
sun.
awesome.
If you've watched the video, you've seen that we're
It's a
shirtless.
super nice
we're
golf course.
in the
Nice golf course.
we're in the river. Like, that's just an anomaly. I mean, that's just something we wouldn't do. Or
who
but
knows?
actually, we would do it because Ethan's buddy came from Japan, one of his Navy
You had a couple of
comrades.
your buddies come, not that year though. Not
He
last
came trout
year.
fishing,
Chandler
and then
came
we
trout fishing
decided,
last
oh,
year.
we're sitting around the fire late at night, and let's go jump in the river. So me and Ethan and Chandler go jump in the river. Well, Ethan pushed him over, and his glasses fell off,
Nice.
and they are somewhere floating in the river to
And
this
he's
day.
fucking blind.
And he could not see shit for the rest of the trip.
Squinting. He's trying to tie a hook on the God damn it.
He's got to fly back to Japan, not being able to see.
So yeah, I mean, it's been a lot of fun.
But this year, yeah, we'll get into some stuff. Probably won't get too crazy. We'll see.
Well,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Alex,
right.
Derek, Wade.
Yeah. So we have 2 camps going this year, and the one camp gets pretty rambunctious.
Yeah, we'll be pretty fuckered up.
So should be fun.
Well,
yeah, and then we do our tubing trip after that. Usually, try to go down there in the summer. Sometimes we try and make it Memorial Weekend if the weather's warm, so we could still turkey out while we're up there. And then we try to tube down the river for a couple miles. Mostly, some years it's taken 9 hours where it's miserable and you want to kill everyone, and then some years it's 3-4 hours. So
I think that's where we're gonna wrap this one up. That's our trout camp / drinking stories. That's pretty much what we knew what this podcast was going to turn into. So we only incriminated us a few times, but I don't think it was too awful bad. Thanks for tuning in. This is the Deer Shot Podcast, and we are out.